Hey everybody, thank y'all all for coming. Hope you have a good evening. My name is JC Smiley. I want to welcome y'all to the Co-Connector Journey into Tech Meetup. We have 7 amazing speakers who will relate their inspirational journeys into tech. And we also have 2 incredible recruiters who will join the speakers in a panel to answer any questions that you have. And I ask that you take a moment during this meetup to connect with them and and share and just either want to share the email or LinkedIn or whatever, just connect with them and start a personal conversation so they can be a part of your journey. And I want to point them out. Mr. I think I'm butcher the name. Taylor Tresner.
Desson.
Desson. Thank you.
Yeah. What's going on, y'all?
And also a a a Steve White. And y'all got give me 1 second here. So yeah, just get a chance, just connect with them and whatnot. Now, before we get started, I want to take 2 minutes to talk about Co-Connector. We have 11 meetups a month. I can't believe we got that many now, but we got one every Monday morning at 12, where we host a virtual lunch. And the ideal is just to talk about whatever on your mind, and it's just a way to meet and greet other developers and to network. Every Tuesday morning at 12, we have a coding dojo. And it's where we have this fantastic group of developers who prepare a pair programming challenge. And they have every week a different driver, somebody who's going to code and try to solve a problem. And they have a navigator, somebody a little bit more experienced, who's going to help them out. And it's a chance for people to watch and to learn and ask questions and whatnot. Every first Saturday of the month, me and Mr. Lawrence, we host a Code Together meetup. It's really informal and just a way for everybody to come together, show off your coding projects, and ask questions and to talk about tech. Every third Tuesday, we have a meetup similar to this right here at nighttime, where we have a little more formal event. And then finally, on the last Friday of each month, Miss Stephanie Wiggins, Mr. Ted, and Mr. Coriano, they host a UI UX meetup, and it's at 11:30 on Friday. So we have something for everybody at different times, because everybody got different schedules. And we also, one last thing, we also have a Slack channel. And it's just where everybody can come together every day to talk tech, help each other out with technical problems, and just talk some friendly non-tech chat. So you want to be part of the Co-Connector family, just go to the Slack channel. I think that's in the chat, and just join up. So we'll go ahead and get started. The plan is for each speaker to talk for 5 to 10 minutes about their journey to tech. And the goal is just to show you the many ways you can get into the tech industry. Now, our first speaker is going to be Mr. Nathaniel Stokes. And I'm going to give it to him. And all that asks is for everybody to mute themselves while each speaker is speaking. You go ahead, Nate.
Thank you. So I actually I played video games when I was younger, but the only reason that I even went to school probably or knew about computer science was I had an engineering scholarship, and computer science was the only thing that seemed interesting at the time. Horrible computer scientist. Oh, computer engineer, my fault. Horrible computer engineer. Maths and physics really aren't my thing. I was hooked up with an internship my first year taking computer classes at Hilton. And the real world, I was too immature for the real world, where people don't like people who are going to come in and be their boss. I didn't know that, but you get that with anything. You get that in the warehouse. You get that at the grocery store. I thought it was just because it was one of my first jobs, But so I ended up getting my degree. No, I ended up spending 7 years in between dropping out of school and before I went back to school, doing programming contests, Microsoft video game contests, Dream Build Play, XNA, Indie Game Challenge. And I kept having these ideas, but because my mind wasn't able to fully formulate the complete concept, I never was able to finish. So I never really got to see if the idea was good or not. So when the last contest ended, I went back to school because I'm not doing anything else, you know what I mean? And I found computer science much easier than computer engineering. But I would say that even with computer science, I'm finding there's a lot that they teach you that you don't really need to know. So when I get out of school, I get my first IT job, my second IT job I'll actually talk about, where I was at FedEx but never got any projects, which is pretty much a death sentence. You know, if you end up at a job and they're not giving you work, you should probably, even if you can't find anything for yourself to do, you should probably leave, because the first question they're going to ask you is, what did you do? So while I was there, I was actually looking for another job. But because I had one idea of what C# was and I didn't know about ASP.NET, I wasn't able to turn my experience making video games into C# into a career in Memphis with C# because I didn't know ASP.NET. So know what you need to know is very important. That's probably one of the first things you should do when you get ready to start putting in your application. C#, ASP.NET, what is that? I don't even remember looking at the job descriptions back then. I don't know even how I was putting in job apps, but I ended up going 1 year after leaving my second job that I was at for 10 months, and I could not find anything. Couldn't find anything. So I go back to school, and sure enough, as soon as I get in school, I landed this company called Cross Browser Testing, which used to be kind of famous in the circles, the tech groups and things of that nature, where they pulled me in because they made it all look exciting and you're always going to be programming. Was not the truth. It was mainly a technical support job. So once again, I found myself trying to defend the fact that I'm a programmer. It just so happened that they ended up giving me 3 or 4 projects that were really interesting. I had a API, I'm running out of time. I had an API thing that I had to rate limit. I had my signature code turned what took 2 programmers or 2 tech workers 2 days to do into a 30-minute affair just by being smart and using the command prompt. So left there and ended up at a company called BRG that used WinForms. That was my first real programming gig, and I thought that I did well. I was able to learn things and be productive and all things of that nature. But I had someone in control who wrote all the pseudocode, so I could never actually approach anything or do any of my own designs, because not only would he tell me how he wanted me to do it, he would give me pseudocode. So it was like, why didn't you just write it yourself? You wrote the pseudocode. Now I'm a full stack developer at a company called Alaska Airlines, where I'm a contractor, but now I pair program. So now I'm probably doing even less programming now, because mostly I'm watching someone else program and making comments, you know. But I can't say that now I get to see what it's like. When it's my turn to drive, I can step into Azure Functions. There's some React, there's some ASP.NET Core. So in a way, I've made it. Oh, and before I go, I want to take one more minute to say this. Along my journey, I've seen so many people get to where I was and further with no degrees. Like when I was at SmartBear, there was 3 or 4 people from Launch Code or didn't have degrees. One of those people moved on before I did and was making 100. He's like, I don't want to say much, he's making over 120 easily. So this is one of those career fields where it can be about what you know. And like even the place where I'm at now, one of the senior engineers here does not have a degree. So, know what you know, learn what you need to learn, and make sure you make the most of your opportunities. All right, you all.
Thank you, Nate. Fantastic. Thank you. A lot of insights there. Our next speaker is Mrs. I'm stuttering. Camelia. And
Camila.
Camilla, thank you. And I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, so I'm Camila, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my journey. So my career was originally in advertising, and I have a degree in advertising/marketing. I'm an immigrant. I came here from Brazil as an adult, and most of my work experience was in Brazil. And so once I moved here, most of my experience was useless. You send out your resume, they don't know those companies, they don't know who you are. And so I struggled a lot to find a job, but I was lucky enough that I was able to find a job in my field. That job was, starter position. In Brazil, I was a managerial position already. And so I had to climb down again, but that's fine. It's life. I'm used to that kind of stuff. And I started at this company and I realized I was not happy doing what I was doing. I was being overworked. I was at a point in my career where learning how to program was starting to make sense already, but being put back down to a lower position made me realize how important it was to learn how to automate things. And that company that I was working for, they were always telling us, that you have to improve, you have to be always looking for the next thing you want to learn. And so I naively went to them and told them, hey, here's what I want to learn and here's the path that I want to go to. And they dismissed me and they were like, yeah, that's not important. We already have a team in here that will do that kind of stuff, which was learning how to automate things. I wanted to learn how to program because I realized most of my time, and again, I was being super overworked. Most of my, Romeo, you're not muted. Oh, well, so most of my work was just going into platforms and pulling out data that I knew could have been automated. And they were not interested in that. And from like 3 months before I actually left my job, they started telling me that they were going to let go of the agency that we used to work with, which meant that my work was just going to increase. And that's when I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in this anymore. I had saved up enough money and I decided it was time. It was right around when pandemic hit as well and everything went virtual. And so I decided to make the leap and I quit my job and I paid for a boot camp in Brazil because, money there is not as valuable. So it was way cheaper. One of the advantages of speaking two languages. And I paid for a boot camp that was data science related. And so that was my first introduction to coding, was with Python and just, all the things that I could add to my marketing degree. But while I was studying that, I also realized that it wasn't really what I was interested in anymore. I guess I just liked coding. I didn't like having to use that to analyze data that was related to marketing and all the things that I was doing. And so my boot camp was coming to an end. I was very confused to what to do. I started applying for jobs, but I was like, I don't want to work with this. I really don't. And part of the things that I had to do on my jobs was like, I had to deal with like website tagging and, parameters and all of that kind of stuff. And then I heard about Launch Code and I was like, you know what, while I decide I'm going to join Launch Code, which was just a great opportunity that came out of nowhere. I was not expecting that. I am not a very religious person, but if there's a God, that was God. And it just fell on my lap and I decided to take the opportunity. And I was like, even if I'm going to continue in marketing, this is going to explain to me how things work on the other side, on how websites actually work on the internet. And now I will have that knowledge to apply when I'm like tagging those websites or trying to understand analytics. And I fell in love with it. I really, really liked it. And after the program ended, I was actually reached out to for a position. We have a thing here in Northwest Arkansas where they partnered up with a local nonprofit that they try to maintain tech in the area. And I was invited to apply for a job for a level 1 position. And I didn't feel like I was ready. And I interviewed and I wasn't ready. I mean, I did my best and I showed everything that I had, but obviously wasn't enough. And so when they were giving me feedback, I asked them about an internship program. I was like, hey, do you guys have internships? And the guy that was interviewing me was really surprising. He's like, yeah, we do. Would you be interested in that? And I was like, yeah, of course I would. And so he was like, oh, okay, I'm going to connect you with the recruiter that does that then. And so they put me in touch with the recruiter that dealt with internships. And I found out they have this whole thing about non-traditional interns in the company. And it turns out it's the same company that I was working for before. And I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to go back there, but it was a great opportunity. And I was like, I'm not going to say no to this. And so I interviewed for the internship and I was accepted. So I'm been there for a month now. It feels like it's a completely different company. They really respect me. And it's been a great experience so far. Everyone is super helpful. Everyone is willing to collaborate. There's no toxic marketing environment, everyone trying to pull each other's rugs or anything like that. It's been just incredible. So that's my journey, you know. And I think that the fact that I changed countries made me really open to just accept anything that comes at me, and I'm not scared of taking, you know, quitting my job. Like that was such a big thing. But I was like, you know what? I've done that before. I quit my job before and I moved to a different country, far away from my family. I don't have anything. I don't have any support. It's me. And so I've just, you know, my attitude towards these things now is, okay, let's try it. And so it worked out, thank God. But that's my story.
Woo! Wow. Love it. Man. Okay, well, let's keep this party going. I think our next speaker is Mr. Zach Wilson. Now I'll let him have the floor.
Hey everybody, my name's Zach, as JC just said. My journey into tech is quite a bit more non-traditional. I got into trouble when I was younger and ended up like in a lot of trouble. And I worked restaurant jobs after that for years, and I just felt like there wasn't much that I could do besides that. But I worked my way up, ended up as a general manager of a restaurant, and was there for about 3 years at the time. And I happened to be driving home from work one day, and there was this big billboard on the side of the road, and it had said something about learning to code, and I saw that it said launch code. So I had been looking at boot camps and looking at school and all this stuff for computer science or programming in general. And because of the pandemic, the class I was going to go to got canceled for that round. And it was going to cost some money, but launch code popped up on this billboard and I checked it out, saw who it was kind of backed by in our area and all that kind of stuff, and decided to make the leap. So I just kind of studied my butt off, and then had my family and this full-time job working in a restaurant. And I just kept doing that and kept doing that. And eventually graduated. And through this process, I kind of knew that because of my background, my criminal background, I was probably going to end up having a really hard time finding a job, especially in a kind of corporate type world. But through that realization, I ended up discovering the power of networking, things like LinkedIn, Twitter, these meetups, and I just started trying to do everything that I could just to learn and to meet new people. And I don't know about y'all, but a lot of jobs that I've had have come through people that I know. And so I decided just to kind of leverage that. Well, I ended up after graduation from the boot camp, they had this like mock interview session with real companies. And I knew that this wasn't just like a mock interview. It was kind of like going to be a real interview, but I had the potential to impress somebody. So I went in with this attitude. I kind of studied a lot of just like whiteboarding problems and code problems in general. And in that process, I ended up meeting some developers from a company, and they asked me to interview with them. And so, yeah, I think I went through 2 interviews with them, and then I had another interview with another company. And I ended up getting offered a full-time internship with a company called Affirma, and they are based out of Bellevue. They have an office here in my area of Fayetteville, Arkansas. And so, yeah, I just started my first internship 3 weeks ago about now. And so it's been really great. I've been learning a lot. I was able to leave the restaurant industry. I was able to kind of shed my past and just keep moving forward. So I'm kind of here to say that like anybody can do this with enough hard work and dedication, and that it's a life changer, just the style and environment that I work in now compared to what I used to. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you, sir. I love hearing how our tech can change lives. Just thank you so much for sharing that. Our next speaker is Miss Amber.
Hello. Like JC said, my name is Amber. I guess I'll just get right into it. So I also have a non-traditional background when it comes to tech. My degree is in psychology. I focus on the research emphasis of things within that. And then from there, I just kind of had a lot of exploring. I was a ski bum for a few years. So I've been in the service industry for a long time. I was also in the wellness industry for a few years. And at the beginning of 2020, I had decided to leave my wellness job just because it was no longer a good fit for me being at that company any longer, and changes just needed to be had. So I had done something that I had never done before, and that was quit my job without having another job in place. But I just had decided to trust and see what happened. And then the pandemic hit and everything shut down. All my interviews had gotten canceled. And I was just kind of like an oh crap kind of moment. So I ended up getting a job working at Starbucks, also guiding outdoor adventures and teaching yoga. I've always been someone that has numerous jobs, either to make ends meet or because I didn't feel like I was challenged or engaged enough in one of the jobs that I had. But I had gotten to a point where I was really tired of hustling numerous jobs just to make ends meet and just kind of feeling scattered all over the place. And I had an acquaintance that I met for coffee, and she told me about this launch code boot camp program that she was joining, and told me that I might be interested in it. And I had never had interest in technology or coding or anything like that before, and I kind of just waved it off. And then I saw an Instagram ad, of course, for the boot camp, and I just kind of got to thinking, like, you know what? Why not? It's free. I'm looking for a different avenue. Might as well explore this and see what happens. Like, what do I have to lose? So I did the boot camp, and I absolutely loved it. That's exactly what my brain has kind of been craving and wanting the past few years. And I also saw an opportunity for stability in my life, both financially, but also just having just one job that I could just show up to and knew that things were going to be taken care of. And so after completing the boot camp, I was really thinking about what I enjoyed doing. And I really liked front-end development, but I also really was interested in UX design and research, and just really thinking about how, like, okay, I know how to build a website, but I also want to know how to design and structure it in a way that makes the user feel good, and then also just adds to people's lives and experiences with whatever they're interacting with. So I decided to teach myself Adobe XD and just kind of really got into wireframing, and worked with JC on designing some stuff for him. And so just kind of putting my feelers out there, like still coding, still continuing to learn that, but also exploring the avenue of design as well, because I just wanted to get my foot in the door in technology in some shape or form. And then so I had an interview with a recruiter from Arkansas Center for Data Sciences on the developer position. And she actually told me on the phone call that that position was actually not going to be hiring until September anymore. She's like, but I do have an internship available. It seems to be in design and development, a little bit more heavy in design. Would you be interested in that? And I'm like, yes, please, because work from home, just like literally anything to get my foot in the door and away from Starbucks. So I've been in the internship for a little over 2 weeks at this point in time. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm learning a lot in design, which actually makes me kind of miss coding. So I'm making sure that I'm also doing a little bit of that at the end of the day, just to continue to build my skills within that. And so at this point in time, I would love if the internship led to a full-time job with the company that I'm with. I really like what we do. We work with just small businesses on building their brands and their businesses. And if not, I'm just really grateful for an opportunity to get my foot in the door and to learn other skills that I didn't get in the boot camp. So when I do go to my next interview, I can present all these new things. So yeah, that's about it.
Awesome, wonderful. And y'all, I personally could say she is an amazing designer. You should see the stuff that she does. She's amazing. So yes. And our next fantastic speaker is a Mr. William Cole.
Warren.
Thank you, Warren.
Yeah, no worries. Hey guys. So I guess I'll start just with school. Seems to be a pretty good place to start from. So back in college, I originally was going to school for marketing. Didn't really like it. I've always liked being outside. I've been riding skateboards and like playing outside my whole life since I was like 4 years old. So I started thinking, hey, what kind of major can I get into that would keep me outside more often, or kind of give me something different to do. Just kind of happened to pick geology. Landed in it and started going to Ole Miss, the campus down in Oxford. For marketing, I was up here in South Haven still, right below Memphis. But I did 4 years of geology, met a ton of people, did a ton of crazy stuff, went to a ton of crazy places. Don't regret any of that. Then I got out into the workforce and was working for an engineering company here in Memphis called Geotechnology. I was doing anything from picking up 80-pound augers all day, 14 hours a day, to doing like ground penetrating radar surveys of like utilities, grave sites, like you name it. Even like we'd scan for rebar half the time too. So literally anything and everything for this engineering company. After kind of like being a road dog and getting worked to death too often, I was like, I need to do something else. Like I like picking up heavy things, but doing that at work and then going to the gym afterwards is not a lot of fun. So I had a buddy around that time that I was kind of getting ready to leave there, thinking about leaving there. He reached out to me and he said, "Hey man, I'm working at the Naval Oceanographic Office down here in South Mississippi. I know your work ethic." He was my TA in school a little bit. He just told me to come apply. So I applied. I went to a recent grad type hiring event, and I sat down with a guy for about 30 minutes before the event and just talked to him. Didn't know that that's who was going to hire me. And that was actually the only person that I was going to interview with, but it just so happened I sat down with him, started talking to him, and then they called me in to interview, and that was the guy that I had talked to, and he said, "Go back out there. I already know I'm going to hire you." So I ended up getting a job with NAVO, made maps for the Navy for like submarines and ships for a year. Had some clearances that I can't talk about, but it was a cool experience, and that's kind of where I got my first interest in programming. I did a little bit of bash programming there just to kind of like streamline what we did with our data for our maps, because a lot of stuff we worked on was like really ancient, like survey data, and really ancient like programs that somebody built with no offense for any Vim fans, but with Vim. Yeah, so I just kind of picked that up there. And then COVID hit, and when COVID hit, they had to send us all home, government employees. They shut everything down, and they said, teach yourself something useful that'll make you better at your job. So I started learning a little bit more about bash scripting, a little bit about Python, and then I somehow landed in learning about front end web development and was like, oh, I like this. This is super cool. I can actually see what I'm making. I really like this. Um, So I started thinking about what I wanted to do. I knew I was about to have to go out to sea and survey for like 5 months. It was the middle of hurricane season. COVID was going on. I already knew of a boat that was out there that everybody had been exposed to COVID on the boat. And at the time, it didn't seem like a good idea. So I decided to quit my job and move back to Memphis, or south of Memphis here in South Haven. And I attended Tech 901. I learned about that through a buddy of mine that works at St. Jude. He's real good friends with one of the guys that kind of got Tech 901 started. He said, hey, go check this out. Talk to these guys, see if you like it. So I did that. It was 14 weeks of front end or an intro to front end web development, I guess you could say. The whole HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React. Not a whole lot of React, but just enough to kind of get your feet wet. So I did that. That was about, I guess, from I want to say September to December last year. And then like 2 weeks after that, Cook Systems reached out to me and said, hey, would you be interested in our, fast track program? It's like a 8-week Java boot camp, essentially. I said, yes. 2 weeks, no, 2 days, actually. 2 days before the class started, I guess this was on like a Monday, because I think it started on a Wednesday. And this is also like um, end of December, like last week in December or something like that. They reached out to me again and said, hey, would you be interested in a faster version of the program, essentially? We've got some stuff coming up, and you tested really high along with a couple other people. Interview with us again and see if you're a good fit. So I interviewed again. Apparently I did good, because they like put us through the ringer in a way faster amount of time than somebody should go through learning Java and Spring Boot, a bunch of stuff I'd never touched. And then I had a job at FedEx doing backend web development. Literally, it's really full stack without front end. It's anything and everything. I've been there since January. It's been like drinking out of a fire hydrant. It's crazy. But I guess I think JC wanted us to give a little bit of advice in this too, and like what we can give people, to help them kind of get into tech on their journey. I would say if I learned anything from my journey into tech, from something completely different, uh, it's that hard work ethic at networking, and saying like being willing to say yes to something even when you're uncomfortable with it is probably like the main keys that got me where I'm at. Like I've always like I might stutter and like not know what I'm trying to say half the time, but I'll talk to people, and I've always like taken that approach with people. If somebody wants to talk to me, I'll talk to them. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to work really hard. Like that's all I've ever done. So that's second nature for me. So yeah, if there's anything I could suggest to anybody to kind of make their way into what some of us are already doing, is just keep after it. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's something Lawrence told me, and it has stuck with me ever since. So yeah, that's my journey into tech.
Ooh, I can't clap hard enough for that. Wow, man, great. Let's keep this going. Our next wonderful speaker is Mr. Carter Capacia.
Close enough. Hold on, guys. Let me pause this. I have a 7-month-old next to me. I was trying to get him to go to sleep, so he is asleep. But if you hear any noises, it's him. So yeah, I'm Carter Capocacci. I'm here in Memphis, Tennessee. And I also went to Ole Miss. So all the Hail State folks, I mean, you know what to do with that. But yeah, so I graduated in 2012 from Ole Miss. And I may have one of the kind of longer stories here. But in 2012, I graduated with a degree in psychology. So I got out of that, and I really didn't have a focus in college. I went to college because that's what the world told me to do. So I got out of college not thinking about what I was going to do, the next 4 years after I graduated, meaning that my grades did not get me into grad school. So with a psychology degree and no grad school behind you, you're not really going to do much. So I ended up working at a telemedicine company, and telemedicine is basically you sit behind a computer screen. It's doctors that practice medicine, but behind a computer screen. They actually never step foot inside of a hospital. But since they do work in these hospitals, they may have to have like medical credentialing and everything that would, if they ever had to step foot inside of there, their paperwork has to be up to date. So I spent the better part of 2 years filing paperwork for a doctor that worked in 48 states. And that was pretty much what I did. But since it was a telemedicine company, there was also a heavy technical aspect to what they were doing as well. And they had one IT guy, and he was the IT guy. He was the developer. He was everything to the company. And he worked in Texas while I was in Memphis. And he became basically my best friend there. So I was his liaison to problems that were happening in Memphis. He was my mentor and really allowed me to kind of ask him questions and dive into a few things. He went on to actually becoming the CTO of Tumblr, and he just left Tumblr and went on to a company called Envision, which is a design software. If you've never used Envision, it's actually pretty cool. I'm not like, I have no kickbacks here, I promise you. It's just a pretty cool thing. Use the free trial, I don't care. But yeah. Then I spent about 2.5 years doing that, and really just I knew that was kind of a dead end. And my next job was going to be about the same, whether I took a job in telemedicine or in another field. Without any kind of specialized skill set or any kind of advanced degree, I was going to find myself doing the same thing of 2, 3, 4 years and just becoming disillusioned with having to go to the office and grind out the workday. Because life's a lot more fun when you don't have to go in to the office and just grind it out. There's grind it out because you want to, and there's grind it out because I want to survive. Those are two different mentalities. But so yeah, in 2015, I quit that job and I went to a boot camp. And this is 2015 boot camp world, where it's kind of the Wild West. Anybody that was trying to start a boot camp in 2015 did so. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't, but I landed at a pretty decent one out of Nashville. I was unable to really move too far. So I moved up to Nashville, lived there for a year, and completed this boot camp. And it was 6 months front-end dev, 6 months back-end dev. And after that, I landed a job back here in Memphis. So in December 2015, I worked for a web agency here in Memphis, and I worked for them for about a year and a half, year and 10 months, something around there. And that was, to me, probably the entire educational foundation that I could have ever wanted. Working at an agency for me was incredible because every 6 weeks I got a new project. And that new project was building a new custom thing for somebody that I had not done before. So it was everything from, we built things like, there was a company that sold golf carts. And so if you guys are familiar with like LADS, I think it's LADDS. I don't know if the website's still up or not, but we built their golf cart configurator where you can choose your options, and then like using an SVG, it lays these options on top of like a base skeletonized golf cart. So you can go and like put rims on this golf cart, put a sound bar on it. You can like tint the front glass on it if you want to. So we built all this like really cool stuff. So yeah, that was really neat. And it's also a lot of fun to be able to see your work out there in the world. So being from Memphis, I built the Children's Museum of Memphis website. It's no longer up anymore. But being able to have like friends and family, go to that website and know that that was my work they were looking at, that was a lot of fun. But the education that I received there was sitting next to other developers and working on different projects every day. And I think a lot of that still plays into, you don't have to work in an agency to have that kind of experience and exposure. having these kind of, mentors and friends that you can go ask questions to and pick new projects every, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever, build something. If you want to build a Chrome extension, find something that's already been built 100 times and build it again. It's just learning along the way. I can't tell you how many times I've rebuilt a to-do app in Vue.js and React.js and Angular. I've built it in plain just vanilla JavaScript before. Just whatever I can do to just like learn the new thing, even if it's something simple, that like little exposure is a lot. But so in December 2015, or I'm sorry, rather mid 2016, I left Rocket Fuel and I went to AutoZone. I was brought to AutoZone under a project they were running where they were going to redo the entire AutoZone.com site in React, and they wanted to build a React developer team to handle this large transition. And AutoZone.com being a high value, high traffic website, I was really excited to deal with this large customer. They actually ended up outsourcing the entire project. And so when they did that, I decided to exit the company as well. So I was only at AutoZone about 11 months, but I did not want to work on, if you guys are familiar with JSPs, they're Java server pages. And it's just it's a tech that at an enterprise level, it works. It's not fun though. It's not where I wanted to be. And so I knew I wanted to keep my focus on React and modern front-end web development tools. So I left AutoZone and I went to a company called Universal Asset Management. Universal Asset Management was a pretty cool place to work for. They allowed us to build business intelligence applications because in their industry, which is aerospace, it was actually aftermarket aerospace. There's not a lot of business intel apps. So Universal Asset Management buys what they call end-of-life aircraft. So entire like Boeing 737s, but they are too expensive to repair. So nobody wants to repair them. Universal Asset Management will buy them, strip them of parts, crush the remainder, and resell the parts. So for that particular industry, there wasn't a lot out there off the shelf. So we came in and we built custom business intelligence applications for them. Really cool opportunity to learn. But the downside of that I found was I was one man on a 3-man team. So there wasn't a ton of learning opportunity for me there. Having a larger team means you have more resources to learn from. And having that smaller team, while I did get a lot of exposure to, I had to go in and run an Nginx server and configure everything right to serve up this PHP backend. That's a lot of fun and really interesting, but small teams have their downsides. Like I said, there's not a lot of people to learn from. And also you tend to be the man on call because there's only 3 of you that can solve these problems. So if something goes down in the middle of the night, they've only got 2 phones that don't pick up before they get to yours. So I left UAM and actually got approached by Hilton, and Hilton wanted somebody to come in and that new React, new front-end web development, but actually wanted to handle their quality automation. So this means everything from cross-browser testing to mobile device testing to unit tests to actual like end-to-end tests using things like WebDriver and Cypress to integrating these processes into their CI pipeline. So this was to me like really exciting because it was a global organization where millions of dollars a day are flowing through this website. So if I can have an impact on the revenue for this application, that was really exciting to me. So I went ahead and took that job, and I've been with Hilton now about 2 years. I was, unfortunately part of Hilton got hit by COVID. If you can imagine the hospitality industry, they got crushed by COVID. But so they furloughed a lot of people and I was part of that furlough, but I was brought back luckily enough, and I'm still happy to be here. I really enjoy working for this organization, and it's a challenge every day. But working at large scale enterprise is far different than working at, like I said, the 3-man shop that I came from. But if I had to give somebody, like, I think we wanted to leave off with a little bit of, career advice. If I had to give somebody kind of one piece of advice, it would be your first job should be a place that you go and you continue your education at. It's not your first job in tech, it's your continued education. And then while you're there, immediately start thinking about where you want to be 2 and 3 jobs from now, because that's the foundation you're building. Don't be so concerned about getting, the perfect job your first time. Be concerned about getting an educational opportunity. After that, start thinking about where you're going next, because from somebody who jumped and from 2015 to now, I've worked at 4 different companies. There was no chance I was getting a pay raise to where I am now by staying at that first company. It's never going to happen to anybody. If you want to get paid, jump companies, jump to where the opportunities are, but don't take it just for the pay. Make sure it's the right opportunity too. Don't dead end yourself because you got attracted by a shiny nickel. But yeah, I think it's about all I got. So thank you guys for the time.
Wow, I can't type fast enough how many tips you threw in there, man. Wow, thank you, man. That was amazing. Let's go to the next speaker, Mr. Michael Blackmer.
Good evening, everyone. First off, just amazing, everybody's story, and I feel like it's so similar, my own experience as well, like things I can pull from, but also hearing so many different news stories and everybody else's developments, really awesome. Where to start? Growing up, I guess my introduction into tech, playing video games, as Nathaniel brought up before, just really interested in video games, getting into PC gaming, back Diablo 2, like Quake, some of that stuff. And then, the most important thing was like, oh man, what about mods? What if we modded them? Like, how do you do that? Like, what's these beginning steps? So, dabbling in, that stuff, just trying to do all that kind of sparked my interest in PCs, and also being relatively broke most of my childhood and high school, like having a really cheap laptop and doing whatever you possibly could to make it like be any better, and really just actually frying it instead, kind of go through all those. It's just like you learn a lot of dumb stuff like on the front end. So I moved from Mississippi to Memphis about 10 years ago, a decade ago, and got straight into the service industry. I actually worked at Best Buy selling PCs. So it was like selling stuff at first, like kind of understanding what they are, that consumer level area of things. And, also watching people come in and spend, so much money on really dumb stuff that they don't need. I don't know, kind of wanted to get out of that area. So go into service industry and become a bartender. So now I'm selling people poison that they probably don't need, so that got really soul sucking. And, I think what really hit me was I had a bike shop gig on the side that I really enjoyed, just there for experience, discount on parts and stuff like that. Kind of have a little bike stand, access to all these tools. But I had a buddy go from a manager there, and he was just so over it. And he went through all the Tech 901 classes. That was like his goal, to go through all of those. And, he would report back to me about it. Like, yeah, I'm learning this in class. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm like, man, that's really sick. All right, cool. That's awesome. Good for you, man. And then pretty much watching him grow from, what he's doing now. Sorry, my dog is just annoying the hell out of me. So watching him grow, I was like, man, why am I not doing that? Like, what's stopping me? So he went from doing tech support for CBU, I believe, to now like network engineering for St. Jude, which is really awesome. Really proud of him. And then, so I thought, why not? What should I jump into? And of course, not even like thinking about the foundations class and what they offer at Tech 901. I went straight to the coding class because I was like, yeah, come on, let's go. Give me the hard stuff. Why not? That coding class was amazing. I've never enjoyed homework more than anything, like literally spending 3 hours just writing 2 or 3 lines of code, copying and pasting, listening to like Aphex Twin, some like electronic music, get lost in the sauce, man. Like that was the most thrilling thing for me. So I just kept pursuing it, but I just knew on the front end, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna like instantly be able to get a job from this novice amount of knowledge that I have in practice. So I took up the foundations class a little bit prior to COVID, and with that class, and I was on unemployment, I ended up getting my A+ certification, and service industry wasn't going to pop back up anytime soon. So what could I do? I was going to take any chance that I could get. So my first job was actually at Ingram Micro, and I just saw an opportunity. I was like, why not? And that was probably the most educational experience I've ever had. Just imaging, I don't know, 220 tablets a day, 10-hour shifts, just working kind of like warehouse work. And that was kind of eye-opening to me. Like, this isn't what I wanted in tech. This isn't it, man. Like, no way. But it did, got me going. It kind of like motivated me more to kind of pursue maybe a better position, something higher than that, like kind of go from the ground up. So yeah, from there, I quit after my contract was up. I was like, nah, there's no way. You guys aren't going to pay me well enough for this. I'm not going to do this. I'm sorry. But like, as Carter was saying, you know, like moving up through companies, like there's not gonna be a place that's just gonna like, you know, you're gonna get that immediately or like what you're expecting. So I went back, bartending kind of picked back up, and I had some downtime. And I had originally applied for Games Workshop in while I was working at Ingram Micro because I wanted to have that step up, like take on more responsibility. And I interviewed twice, didn't get the job, but the opportunity came back a couple of months later or several months later. And networking is probably the most important thing you can do. Bartending has been like a huge like blessing, but also connecting with, you know, Code Connector, Discord, Tech 901, all these peers, people that work in the industry, my friend, just talking, just ask the questions. Like that's the most important thing you can really do. It just seize that opportunity. If you don't know something, like definitely ask somebody because they know it and hear their experiences too, you know, the good and bad. So that way you can kind of have like a presumption of what you're getting into. And now I got that opportunity for Games Workshop, and then I'm working just like desktop support IT, but it's a very small team. So there's like within the first 3 months, it was like kind of some mundane work. You know, I wasn't taking on too much responsibility, but now like everything's in my lap. It's like I'm picking up a lot of work. And as far as like some development stuff's come in handy, I've been able to I've been able to apply a lot of coding to my like some of the like automating the boring stuff at work. You know, I think it's been the most fun and exciting things. And there's like not a lot of other guys that do like application work and stuff. So they're like, oh yeah, sure. If you want to do that, go for it. So I ended up just automating some programming stuff. We have an applications team that it's only 2 guys, but they're dealing with like SQL Server stuff. Like it's all invoicing, warehouse work. And I'm just like, man, why is this stuff ancient? This stuff's old. I hate SQL. I absolutely hate SQL. It's dumb. Like, in my opinion, like you're for it, go for it, man. That is just like BS to me. But what I'm learning it, I'm loving it. Like, it's cool. Like, I want to see how this stuff works, you know, work from the ground up. And Python's my jam. I just love how accessible everything is. You want a library for it, it's there. It gives you the tools. It's just plug and play. I've been having a lot of fun with that. And now I'm still working for the company. They extended my contract from 4 months to an extra 6 months. More than likely full time. We'll see. Like, well, as far as like permanent employee, but the work's awesome. I love you know, like everybody else has been saying, you know, like just constantly learning, constantly applying yourself, seeing whatever's new, keeping up with newer technologies. And I don't know, just staying excited about that. Just always keeping up with that stuff. So now I'm happy. I love working from home. It's sick. And I couldn't be happier to quit my bartending job. So, you know, maybe I'll do it this weekend. I'm feeling wild. So anyway, it's been kind of my wild little journey through tech to where I am now. And it's still going. Like I definitely want to see myself like being more on the developer side of things than changing passwords or doing system administration, because that's also some stuff that's like, come on, boohoo. Like, or at least develop a better system for those things happening at my current place. But yeah, just want to grind. That's my story. I'm done. Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Woo! Love that hustle, that self-motivation. But we got one more speaker. Somebody super special. Mr. Taylor. I've listened to a lot of his early morning LinkedIn shows, and so I'm just love the fact that he's here to talk to everybody. So I'll give it up for Mr. Taylor. Just tell us about yourself and any advice you give or before the panel.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, JC, thanks for reaching out, man, inviting me. I appreciate it. It's so nice to see everybody here this evening. Some amazing stories. Again, shout out to y'all. I mean, it's not easy. Landing your first job in tech and kind of working through that process is incredibly difficult. And obviously hearing all of y'all tonight gets me all jacked up because obviously working with developers day in, day out across the country, it's hard, right? And I think as recruiters, we can become numb to the fact that people are just numbers sometimes. And so really hearing the stories tonight is just fantastic. So again, props to all y'all for real. So for those of you not knowing, my name is Taylor Desson. I hail from beautiful Music City, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm not a country music fan. Do not ask me that. I actually been recruiting now for 10 years this year, which also is not normal at all. And so I've been very fortunate to be at Vaco my entire career. I know we have a Memphis office and a pretty good Memphis presence. But my role's actually shifted into a purely national role. So I am now helping companies and job seekers across the country now. So previously it was just Nashville. Now I am working with everybody and anyone across the country in tech. So I'm very excited about that. Basically trying to change the way recruiting is across the country one day at a time, which is going to be a project until I die. So I'm looking forward to that. Just some advice. I think there's been so many good thoughts and comments. My biggest thing is it starts with network, right? And it starts with your community and it starts with relationships. I think we are taught completely wrong when it comes to the job search. It's so much easier to press quick apply. It's so much easier to just send your resume all around town or all across the country now, let's be honest, and not make one single friend. And I think when it comes to the job search, it's all about friend making. When it boils down to it, right? If I were you and you are active on the job search, I would connect with every single person on this call. I've already started to connect with some of you because for me, I think it's about depth, not width. And it's about how deep you can get in relationships. And that really is what pays off in the job search. I also think recruiters are a great source of information, even if we can't help you. We know the behind the scenes of thousands of companies, thousands of candidates. We've seen what works, what doesn't. So I would start, if you don't have a recruiter or two that you trust in your area, go out and find one, find two, find five, because we can definitely make a huge difference. Sorry, I'm seeing the chat. My wife designed the room behind me. It's not me. It is not fake. I've had a few people ask. So yeah, my wife's like an unofficial interior decorator. Actually, I just closed on a house. So we will be moving very, very soon. So this will be no longer. So anyways, all that being said, yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I think starting with recruiters, I think building relationships. I have so many thoughts on this, so I'll just shut my mouth and answer when people ask questions over the panel. But again, JC, thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for hanging out with us this evening on this panel.
Okay. I also thank you, Taylor. So let's get to the fun part where we get to, at least my favorite part, we get to ask questions and answers, and not really sure the best way to handle it. So if you have a question, raise your hand. Thank you. Raise your hand. I call on you. You answer it, and then whoever wants to answer, and we'll give as many as we can. And then we'll take 4 or 5 people to answer. Then move on to the next question. All right. So the first hand that I saw was Mr. Lawrence. So you go first, sir.
Yes, I win. First of all, man, congrats to all of you and your stories. I'm inspired. Like, man, I'm not doing anything anymore. I got to get on my grind. This is what I'm here for. So many of you I know through Launch Code. I'm actually still a TA with Launch Code. I'm doing it remotely for a cohort cohort out of St. Louis. And so I like to ask any current or prior Launch Code students, give me one tip that I can give my current students on getting through the program, job readiness, anything you want to share, just one tip. And that can be from any boot camp. It doesn't have to be Launch Code. Let me take that back. Any boot camp student. Thank you.
I'm going to say push through, because it's really easy to get unmotivated. Life happens. It's not a short boot camp. There's a lot of things that happen. I went through 1,000 things while I was going through it. And, thinking about quitting and like, this is not going to go anywhere. I might as well just stop this and deal with my life. And I'm really glad I didn't. So I think push through is a big, big one. And I know people that dropped off halfway and they said they wish they didn't.
Yeah, I just echo that a little bit. There were a lot of people in my boot camp that either dropped off or they became just kind of disillusioned with, boot camps are it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? It's really fast knowledge coming at you. I don't know that I left my boot camp being able to build a single thing because, you're taking in so much. And at the end of that, I felt like I had been exposed to so much of it, but I couldn't produce anything. And I guess the expectation I'd set for myself was I was going to leave there and build out like this huge portfolio of awesome apps. But then, now that I'm able to look back at it 6 years later, almost 7 years later, I can kind of say that was the wrong expectation for me to set on myself, and that you should look at this as this is the beginning of your education, and that once you graduate, if you think that you're done and that that's your ticket to a job, then you went into it with the wrong mindset. So kind of reevaluate. So again, that like completely push through, do not lose this. You already put 6 months of work into it. Now continue on with your investment.
Yeah, I would echo that. Setting adequate or reasonable expectations for yourself in terms of timing and when you're going to get a job, and also just there's a lot of stuff out there that's like become a developer in 3 months, in 6 months, XYZ. And maybe that's possible if you have some background in coding or anything like that. But I think just setting reasonable expectations for yourself just really sets you up for success mentally and emotionally while you're going through this, because it can be pretty rough on those ways. So yeah, just setting yourself up for success by being reasonable about things.
I want to say, I'm not a launch code student, but I've been to a boot camp. So I guess one of the biggest things I got out of my boot camp is not being afraid to just like add all the bells and whistles that I can to a very small project. Because you'd be really surprised. Like, I think Carter was saying he's done a to-do list like a ton of different times and different things. You'd be really surprised how much you can learn in just making a to-do list. Like, you can add sound, you can add animations, you can use a database. Like, it doesn't have to just be like, simple array and cache or however you go about making it. Like, you can get fancy with very simple things and learn a lot. So that's my advice, at least, is pushing through and giving it your all on little things.
Lawrence, I'm actually speaking to Claim Academy on Thursday. I don't know if you're familiar with Claim Academy. They're out of St. Louis as well, so I'm speaking to that crew. But my biggest recommendation, and I volunteer my time at Nashville Software School here in town, is to try to have one intentional conversation a day with a complete stranger. My dad, who is 55, 60 years old, he was working at a restaurant for 25 years and it was literally killing him, literally spinal surgery, all that. Quit his job. He called me up one day and he goes, "Taylor, what do I do?" And I go, I don't understand. What do you mean? What do you do? And he goes, "How do I find a job?" And I was like, "Oh crap." When your dad calls you and asks you that, it's real, right? Again, going back to the whole being numb thing, what that recruiters do. And so all that being said, I told him, I said, this was pre-COVID, have one lunch, one coffee, one phone conversation a day with somebody in your network or a complete stranger. And in 2 months, he found a job that he's still at 6 years later. And so I would say just start sliding into DMs. My website's got tactics on how to do that eloquently. But that is my biggest advice.
Yo, we got to get him in here speaking, man. Jeez, where was his time?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, thank y'all for that. Miss Autumn, I think you have a question.
Yes, I do. Actually, Zach inspired this question, but I'm sure that like other panelists could speak to this. Zach, I know that you talked a little bit about like prepping for having to whiteboard during interviews, which is the bane of my existence. So I'm curious like what that process looked like, and if you felt like you were prepared, if you actually had to whip it out, like what that was like for you during your like job search.
Okay, I'll take it.
Oh, sorry.
There you go, Zach.
I had two mutes there. So I guess my thing was like I just focused completely on that for the most part. I was still doing some other stuff on the side when I was coding, but it became like my big focus. I started using several different websites, and then basically just talking to, so I probably sound crazy when I'm developing in my room, but I'm talking to myself, like stepping through the process, using pseudocode, things like that, to just kind of break down the problem into smaller sections. And just from the repetition of doing that for a few weeks at a time, it got me really prepared. We also had some like I have a few mentors, and I sat down with them, worked with that. We did it with in launch code. And I actually had done so many that whenever it came to the mock interviews that we had, I was asked a whiteboarding question that I'd already done before. So I was able to solve it in 2 different ways and then show which one was faster and why. And that kind of landed me the next interview. But it the real life interview was much harder question, but I just got comfortable with speaking out loud, which is like a huge key when you're whiteboarding, is talking through your process, what you think you should do next, leaning on your interviewers, because I just start to think of them as like they're there to help me. Yes, they are interviewing me, but they are there to answer questions. And so, yeah, just constantly just practicing it for a few weeks, get in that habit, and then maybe just try to solve the code with pseudocode without even coding, and then stepping through your process, just speaking out loud, those kind of things. Yeah.
100%. Like I can't, I've hired lots of people. The amount of times I've seen a developer come in the room, and look, I totally get it's miserable to do those like code assessments. It's horrible. I don't know of a better way to like gauge somebody's skill set. But I would encourage you, as the person coming into this, think of it not as they want to see if this is pass or fail, because if they do that, that's a poor strategy for an employer. Really what they should be doing is, I want to find the limits of this person's knowledge. So if they throw you an easy, low ball question, and then it progressively gets harder, don't stop talking. Think about what, if you get to a spot where you dead end, it's, I'm not really sure what to do here, but I think that this is possible. And then start, like Zach was saying, just start pseudocoding stuff, saying, I think I would manipulate this piece of data in this way, and put it into this kind of a structure. Then I would return it back to the user like this. That right there is like, okay, maybe they don't know implementation, but they know enough to know it's possible, because anybody can Google and read the docs and figure out the rest.
Do anybody else want to jump in on that question before we go to the next?
Well, I'll just tag on to kind of what Carter said. Just as far as what people want to see when they interview you and give you, because like for smart browser, cross browser testing, they gave me a take home test. I did horrible. I did not finish. It was trash, but they liked me. They like my personality. Be approachable, crack jokes, laugh at yourself. Don't be one of those people who, and if someone gives you advice or tries to help you, make sure you receive it in the right way. Like I've seen, because I had a cousin come up to interview at cross browser testing, and he was like telling them, like pretty much mocking their intelligence, even though he was looking for a job. So, be humble, be the type of person you'd want to work with when you go on these interviews, and also prepare yourself. My first, what do you call them? Programming algorithm test, I tried to code the answer based on my thinking that I was good at coding. You cannot do that. Like, these algorithms and things that you face when you go to take one of these programming tests, they don't want to know if you can program. They want to know if you are aware of the normal algorithms that are used to solve these problems. Like, when you go to take one of these tests, be aware of breadth first search, depth first search. That's probably how I got my job. Like, honestly, the job that I have now, yeah, they like my personality. Let me tell you what my senior programming test was. It was if I can make a if-else tree based on a chart of 3x3 chart, 3 widths, 3 height. Now, you think they're really giving out jobs, that senior level jobs, based on people who can do that? Of course not. But it was that I was a better fit personality wise. You know, I made sure I dropped. I was like, well, I don't know how to do X, Y, and Z. And they didn't even ask me to prove that I could do these things. I was like, yeah, but I know breadth first search, depth first search. I know a sort. I know, and they were like, okay, he's confident. Be confident. Act like that cousin I mentioned earlier. You know how he got his job? He's confident. That's it. He's one of the worst programmers you'll ever see. But when he walks into an interview, he acts like he owns it. Like anyone who meets him always thinks he's impressive and knows what he's talking about. It's when you ask the right question that you're like, oh, this guy over here is an airhead. But with that being said, be confident, but be humble. You don't have to know everything, but do know something. And never think that it's beyond you. Always attempt. Like, put an application in everywhere. Always attempt.
Well, we can just end it there. That was just straight fire.
We're going to go to the next question. Miss Knox.
JC, come on now. We've been at this for months.
It's been years. I know you. Miss Knox.
Hello, panel. My name is Asia Knox. Just correct JC for a second. If you do hear something in the background, that is my 3-year-old child. My question really is just in regards to thinking of somebody that doesn't have a technical background. So what would be the best approach to taking that first step into getting into this industry, especially if you're already not even in the technology sort of field?
I could probably drop some knowledge on that. I would guess like there's a lot of sites like Udemy and Free Code Camp and stuff like that where you can take classes, get some exposure to it. If you're able to find a boot camp or just some way to kind of step into it and get your fingers working on the keyboard and learn programming concepts. So there's a lot of like free resources. I think that's a good way. I initially first started learning on an app called Solo Learn, just like maybe a month before I started my boot camp. Just kind of helped me pick up JavaScript a little bit quicker. But just stuff like that, leveraging the free resources and just getting a little bit of exposure.
Yeah, I'm really big on. So this is a very divisive topic. So I'm going to preface saying that if you have the time and you find yourself on the 15th Udemy course or the 32nd Pluralsight course, maybe reach out and offer your services for free. Now, that's if you can afford it, number one. But I will tell you this, I do have an internship program for kind of my brand and what I'm doing. It's more content marketing and writing and whatnot. But I was able to help one girl who volunteered her time, and I ended up placing her as a digital project manager at one of our clients. And I would have never known her, and she would have never gotten the job if she did not get into my ecosystem, right? And so, like I said, I'm not saying volunteer 40 hours. I'm not saying volunteering 20 hours. Listen, she was helping me 3 to 5 hours a week on my website, right? And so, again, I understand this is a divisive topic, but if you find yourself getting bored of all these courses, when it comes to recruiters, when it comes to hiring managers, I legitimately look for professional experience, even if it's free. I had one JavaScript developer. His resume looked great. 2 years of experience. I said, man, your resume looks great. He goes, thanks, Taylor. It's free. I go, what? He goes, I've been volunteering for free for 2 years. You know what? Our client didn't know that, and they offered him a job, right? Because he had 2 years of experience. And so again, I understand it doesn't work for everybody. However, that is just what I've seen works really well if you're struggling to get into the industry.
I think I can see the benefit of that as well, especially if you can't afford a boot camp. I was really lucky that the boot camp that was offered in Northwest Arkansas was completely free. Otherwise, I really don't see myself having gone down this path. So yeah, going through just, the tutorial hell loop, basically, you can get stuck in that. So if you are able to get any kind of experience or work underneath your belt, there's a couple nonprofit organizations like Zach. I know that you worked with one, coding, volunteering your hours coding, and there's a few other ones that I can put in the chat as well. So just trying to get experience that way for sure.
What Zach just said, I was just about to say, like, because the thing about hackathons is you're learning, but with the reward right there at the end. And like, I actually put my last 3 hackathons on my resume, and they asked me about them. Well, what is this? That was really the only front end experience that I had. And like when they broke our teams down. When they listed what everyone did, they put front end and back end for me, even though I don't really know yet. So like, definitely find a language that you like. Go to devpost.com hackathons and get started. Because especially like, because JC, if I can brag on him for a second, he actually won a hackathon. Not only did he get, I don't want to say how much he won, but he won some good money for his time investment. And that's something that will always be, oh yeah, I won the I won the hackathon. You see what I'm saying? But also, if you know someone who needs something, like, it's not a hack. Let's say you have a friend, or you have your favorite restaurant. They don't have a website. Can I make you a website? Don't let them know that you're learning. Well, you can let them know, just be like, I'm improving my portfolio, because I actually, and I didn't get successful, but I went to one of my cousin's events, and I had like 200 business cards, and I handed out 30 or 40 or 50 or something. And I was like, look, I'm just looking to build my portfolio. Now, I got a lot of people who said they were interested, but none of them hit me up. So maybe if I had more time, I would go hit them up to see, if I could really offer my services. But as it is, I'm waiting to see if I got into this Google video game accelerator, which is like, I don't know what it is yet, but I want to make video games. So that's what I'm doing. So, September 3rd, give me your best thoughts and wishes.
All right, do you got anybody else who want to jump in on the question?
Not necessarily from me, since I was the one that asked the question, but I at least wanted to thank the panel for all your answers. I'm only asking insight on kind of a different way of doing this, only because one, with the company I work with, we mostly train people that don't have those tech backgrounds. So trying to find new approaches to these new problems as they come up is always insightful, especially hear it from you guys. So I do appreciate the panel's time for taking the time out to answer that question. Also, just because for myself, I don't come from a tech background, but it's always interested just to find out what different avenues I could take to learn more about mastering my craft. So I do appreciate the panel's time.
Did we lose JC?
Yeah,
I think we
that's what I
lost
was
JC. JC, come back to us, big
JC.
dog.
I'm sorry, my daughter was screaming. Somebody was banging on our front doors. I had to go check that out. What happened when I was gone?
everything, man. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
man, dude, we can't catch you up
Sheesh.
that quick.
You gotta stay ready to get ready, JC. Come on now.
Oh,
I'm joking. He knows these are jokes.
All right. What the next question we got here? What's next? Oh, my guys, some. I'm totally lost. What's up, y'all? All right. What the next? Am I got another question?
JC, I don't have another question, but I'd like to kind of prompt our speakers tonight. If you guys have any good like learning resources or things you want to throw in the chat, like I was trying to think while I was going through here. Some of these people may want, you know, some like we got asked about these interview prep questions, or you know, how can I like have projects. So I was throwing in things in the chat that I found really valuable to myself in the past. I threw in Wes Boss's course. I went through that course, and it's you literally build 30 different JavaScript projects. I built all those projects and put them on my website as things that, you know, these are things that I built, and they are things that I built. I just built them while taking a course. But that kind of a thing is, it's just a resume builder, right? But I think that you know, throw these links in the chat so people can take them and use them.
Yeah, the one thing that I just want to selfishly promote is my texting community. So I posted a link where you can find all my resources, but I have a texting community. So you get one or two texts from me. You get two texts from me today. One when I go live on my show and I have a guest, and then just a simple job tip through text message. It's just to you. I don't spam you. And I do it once a day. So there's 300 people on the community, and it's just one text a day. And I've had a handful of people get jobs, not through me, but just because of the resources and the tips that I share. So if you like some things that I've rambled on today or this evening, I would love to have you a part of my texting community. So.
Are you going to ask about my car warranty?
Yeah, excuse me, sir. Do you have time to talk about your extended car? No, not at all. I don't sell anything on it.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, y'all. So, all right. We're back. We're almost at the end of the meetup. We try to stop at 8. So, once again, if you're not part of the Co-Connector community, we'll love to have you. Just read through if somebody can throw out our Slack invite, come join us. We try to have fun. But mainly try to be a resource. If you need a good friend, Mr. Taylor is the person to be. So take this opportunity to reach out to him, LinkedIn or whatnot. And I think he's pointed out also that networking is important. So everybody you see on this call, start messaging them. Just LinkedIn. It works. I hope everybody enjoyed everything. I want to thank all the speakers. Y'all have some amazing stories. And I can't wait to see what happens next. I can't wait till a month from now, maybe a year from now, try to bring y'all back together and say, hey, what's next? What happened next? And did anybody else got any parting? I'm gonna start rambling. Anybody else have any parting words or thank yous they want to give?
I just want to thank you guys at Code Connector. I think I got linked up with you guys before I even moved back to the Memphis area. Like I was still making maps at the coast and found you guys, got on there, just started talking to folks. Y'all have always been just super open and responsive to me and everybody else in the community, which has kind of helped me get better at networking and just kind of learn how to talk to people and figure things out. So I just want to thank you guys, and I guess plug for Taylor as well, because I follow him on LinkedIn and get the text, and he knows his stuff. He's a great resource to have on your side if you got it. So yeah.
I'll go ahead and send a check your way after this call. Appreciate it.
No problem.
If I could jump in for a second, Taylor has this LinkedIn thing he do every morning around 9:30, 10. That is phenomenal. I started watching almost every day now. You get so many tips. So just go to LinkedIn, go to his thing, and you can find it's like coding phase 2.0. So code something. No,
Guidance counselor.
yeah, that. There you go.
Guidance counselor 2.0. Yep.
It's
Thanks,
fantastic.
JC. I'll send you your check as well.
Hi, I'm Breon Gaines. I also just wanted to leave a huge thank you. I'm actually a part of Launch Code, so shout out to Lawrence. I'm currently in my second unit, and definitely was a lot of great information I learned today. I'm also trying to get used to speaking in front of people and just having a bit more confidence also because this tech world is a bit new to me also. Just yeah, Thanks a lot to Nathaniel also and the who else was that? The guy who's the bartender, because I'm currently a bartender as well. So I was just like, dang, I really it definitely relates to that selling people poison or whatever you said. It's just a bit of a thing where you kind of want to get out of, and yeah, I appreciate it a lot. Thank you guys.
All right, well, that being it, y'all stay safe and y'all stay blessed.
See you guys. Have a good night.
Good night, guys. See you next time.
Later, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.